This is a video tutorial for lesson 9.3, which is on multiplying binomials. And we're going to start out first by looking at how to multiply a binomial by a binomial. And if you remember, a binomial is a polynomial with two terms. Now there are two different ways you can do this. We're going to start with looking at the distributive property. That's going to be our first method of doing this. Okay, so the distributive property, like you remember, is when you distribute or pass along one term to the other terms in the set of parentheses. So what we're going to do, but as you can see, we have two terms by two terms. So I'm going to break my first set of parentheses up. You could also break up your second set, but I'll just break up the first set because it comes first. So I have 3x plus 5. So first I'm going to break that up, and I'm just going to multiply the 3x by the x plus 7. So I multiply the 3x by the x plus 7. But I can't forget about this 5. This 5 also has to be distributed. So I write down plus 5, and I'm going to distribute that to the x plus 7 as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my distribution. 3x times x is 3x squared. And I draw my little loops in here so I remember what I've actually done. So 3x times 7 is positive 21x. Now I come over here at the 5. I'm going to do the same thing. So positive 5 times x is positive 5x. Positive 5 times 7 is positive 35. So I've gone from my factored form to my expanded form using the distributive property. I've multiplied a binomial by a binomial. But I'm not done, because now I have to say, well, are there any like terms I can add up? So I see an x squared here, but that's my only x squared, so I just drop 3x squared. Now I have two x's. I have a 21x and a 5x, and those are like terms, so I'm going to add those up to get 26x, and then that constant 35 number is by itself, so I just drop it. So I've used the distributive property to multiply a binomial by a binomial, and I got 3x squared plus 26x plus 35, which is called a quadratic trinomial. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this next example, but you're going to notice this one's a little different because what have I got here? I've got a minus, so you have to be careful. So I'm going to break this up again. I'm going to go ahead and write 2y times y plus 2. And now this is a negative 3 I need to distribute. So instead of writing like how I wrote positive 5 up here, because it was positive 5, now I write negative 3 times y plus 2. So then I'm going to distribute 2y times y, 2y squared. 2y times 2, positive 4y. Now be careful with this negative. Negative 3 times y is negative 3y. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And again, I'm going to add like terms. Any other y squareds? Nope, just the one. So I'm going to drop that. Now I've got positive 4y and negative 3y, which becomes positive 1y. And I don't need to write that 1y. I can just write y. And then I've got the minus 6 all by itself. Okay, so this is multiplying a binomial by a binomial using the distributive property. You go ahead and give this one a try. Copy it down on your sheet of paper. Pause the video, try it on your own, and then after you've got it, push start again, and then you can check to see if you did it right. So go ahead and pause it and try it yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to do this again, and you could check your work to see how you did. So the 9a minus 8, I'm going to break it up, and I'm going to do 9a times 7a plus 4. Now negative 8 times 7a plus 4. Hopefully I don't run out of room here. 9a times 7a is going to be 63a squared. 9a times 4 is positive 36a. Now be careful, there's that negative. Negative a times 7a is negative 56a. Negative a times 4 is negative 32. Now you look for your like terms. 63a squared, that's the only a squared, so I just drop it. Here are two a's, 36a and negative 56a, like terms, so that becomes negative 20a. And then you've got your negative 32. So hopefully you got that one correct. I'm going to go ahead now. So this is the distributive property, multiplying a binomial by a binomial. This is one method. The second method you're still using the distributive property, but there's a different method of how to remember how to do it. And this is the way that when I multiply a binomial by a binomial, this is kind of the method that I always use. You need to know how to do both methods though. So this is the distributive property, and this next one is something called foiling. And foiling is an acronym that stands for first, outer, inner, last. And you might be thinking, what does first, outer, inner, last have anything to do with this? Well, the first represents your first terms in each set of in the parentheses. Your outer represents the ones on the outside, so that'd be 3x and 5. The inner are the two that are on the inside of the parentheses, 4 and 2x. And the last are the last terms in each set of parentheses, 4 and 5. And it's a way to remember how you're going to multiply every single term by its together. So I'm going to start by writing out, and this is what I do, and this is what I want you to do, FOIL vertically down your sheet of paper. And I'm going to use different colors. You do not need to use different colors. I'm just going to do this to help give you the instruction on it, but again, you do not need to do this with different colors, but you do need to write the FOIL. Okay, so the F stands for first. So that means I'm going to multiply the first terms in each set of parentheses, which we already said was the 3x times the 2x. So I'm going to write 3x times 2x, which is 6x squared. So I just multiplied my first terms by each other. And now I'm going to do my outer terms, the ones on the outside, which are the 3x and the 5. So I'm going to do 3x times 5, which is 15x. Now the inner ones are the 4 and the 2x, because they're on the inside of the parentheses. So 4 times 2x, which is 8x. And the last terms in each set of parentheses are the 4 and the 5. So I multiply 4 times 5 to get 20. Now I've got these 4 products here, and I need to look and see if I have any like terms. And sure enough, I do. I have 15x and 8x. So I add those up. 15x plus 8x ends up being 23x. So I take my 3 terms, 6x squared, 23x, positive 20, and put them all together to get my answer of 6x squared plus 23x plus 20. And that is how you use foiling. It's just another method to multiply a binomial by a binomial. So let's go ahead and look at another example. So again, first thing I'm going to see if I have to FOIL is I'm going to write the FOIL down my sheet of paper. And again, I want you to do this and show your work just like this. And so I'm going to multiply my first. So that's the 4x and the 3x. So I write down 4x times 3x, which is 12x squared. Okay, now I'm going to go and multiply the ones on the outside. So outside of the set of parentheses is 4x, and be careful here, that's a negative 6. So 4x times negative 6, these two right here, which is negative 24x. The inner, the ones on the inside of the sets of parentheses, are 2 and 3x. Ends up being 6x. And the L stands for last, the last ones in each set of parentheses, which is 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12. Now again, I need to look for like terms, and here they are, right here. I see some like terms, so I add those up. Negative 24x plus 6x ends up being negative 18x. So I take these 3 terms, and I write 12x squared minus 18x minus 12. I'll go ahead and highlight that. And there's our answer. Again, these were both quadratic trinomials when we multiplied them. Okay, so just like before, I want you to try to do this answer. And I don't want you to use the distributive property. I want you to try this one using FOIL. So go ahead and copy it down. Try it on your sheet of line paper. Pause the video. Once you've done it, go ahead and start it. And we'll go over it and make sure you've done it correctly. Okay, welcome back. So again, I need to use FOIL. So I'm going to write down FOIL. And I'm going to go ahead and go through this. So F stands for first one in each set of parentheses. 3x times 2x. Well, let me write that with this. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. Now I'm going to do the outside, which is 3x times negative 5, which is negative 15x. Inner, the ones on the insides of the parentheses, so that's negative 4 times 2x. See how easy it is to look over that negative? Be very careful of that. So that's negative 8x. And the last ones in each set of parentheses, negative 4 times negative 5. Now, negative times a negative should be a positive. So now I look for like terms. Here they are. Negative 15x and negative 8x is negative 23x. And now I take my three terms and I put them all together. So 6x squared minus 23x plus 20. Hopefully you got that correct. If you need to review anything, you can go back and rewatch the parts of the video that you need. So again, we looked at two different methods of multiplying a binomial by a binomial. The first was the distributive property, where we broke up the first set of parentheses and distributed each term to the second set of parentheses. And the second method is our method of foiling, which is how we remember to multiply the terms together using the first terms, the outer terms, the inners, and the last. Thank you very much for watching.